Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak to the players of the 2020 Collins Cup. It's kind of hard to even imagine it's been 20 years. I have a good benchmark for timing there. My daughter was born that year. So to look at her and know that this tournament has been going on that long really means a lot to me. I'd like to, first of all, congratulate everybody who's playing this year. Say hello to Carrie and maybe tell you just a little bit of a story for those of you that might be new to River Hill and new to the Collins Cup about how it was formed and really why. I was a young first-time head professional. I had been the golf professional at Austin Country Club, and Mark Fuller left and went to Oak Tree, and I had an opportunity to come to River Hill, and Ross Collins was kind of nominated, I guess, by the board to put together the search committee to find a new head golf professional. And I won't bore you with all those details, but long story short is I became the head golf professional and developed a really good relationship with Ross. He was quite a mentor to me as a new golf professional, and also how best to navigate River Hill and some of the lessons that he had learned through the years. So we became really good friends, and after being there for almost a year, I realized that Ross was kind of on the outside looking in on this club and wanted to be a part of it. And I couldn't figure out exactly why at the time he was not being embraced by the club with all of his past accomplishments and all that he could offer to the club. And at Austin Country Club, we had a Ryder Cup style event that rewarded participation in the events. And I thought it'd be a good idea to copy that. So the idea of the event is not completely unique. In fact, we copied it after Austin Country Club, but I wanted it to be more than just an MGA or a club year-end gathering. I wanted it to mean something, and after 20 years, obviously, it's meant something, which means a lot to me. But the idea was to reward participation specifically. It was not about who's the best player. It was not about who typically finished in the top of the MGA events. I wanted an event that really recognized those who signed up for everything we had, whether it was an MGA event or the member guest or the club championship or even the couples events that we were running at the time. You would get points for that. And I don't know if it's still that way, but that was what it started. And so when I made the presentation to the board, they loved the idea, and I said, I'd like to call it the Collins Cup. And at that time, the board gave me a lot of leeway to sort of do what I wanted to do, but I wanted their blessing. And I remember at the end of that presentation, one of the board members asking me, hey, I just have one question. And he said, who is Ross Collins? And why don't we name it after Byron? And I said, well, that's a really good question. I said, first of all, Byron has a tournament with his name on it currently. And secondly, you will know who Ross Collins is when this tournament's concluded. And I had a little bit of a temper back then, and that comment really got to me, and it sort of confirmed the idea, which is the current membership really needed to know who Ross was. And so I brought Ross in. He and I sat down and came up with how the events were going to go. And our very first player announcement was in the mansion. And I had Ross MC the whole thing. He called out who the players were and which sides they were going to be on. He told a few stories about some of the guys that he knew. And for those of you there tonight that were at that first one almost 20 years ago, will remember two things. One, how special it is now, and number two, how you felt about not really knowing what this thing is all about. So that's kind of the backstory on how the event started, and Ross was a really big part of it. He started on the number one tee. Every group that teed off, he was on the tee with them. He thanked them. But I remember that first year, I told everybody after the first round, I told them, tomorrow you all need to be here for breakfast at 8 o'clock sharp. And you know, most of the people were pretty eager to just say, hey, that sounds great, free breakfast, I'll be there. And a couple of them I had to kind of prod a little bit. And they said, well, you know, I kind of have a breakfast routine. I may just show up for my tea time. And I said, no, trust me, you want to be here for this event. And they said, what is it? I said, I'm not going to tell you, but you don't want to miss it. And one player, and I don't recall who it was, didn't take that to heart and missed out on this event. And so Byron drove in that evening, and I set up the tables in a horseshoe format, and I put Ross and Byron sitting next to each other at a table in the middle of that U-shaped grouping, so everybody was very close to them. And it was an unscripted breakfast for about an hour and a half of just questions and answers. Ask either one of them anything that you want. And, you know, Byron got his fair share of questions, which was expected, and those are really good. But for those of you that have watched the video, it's on YouTube. It's in 4 sections. If you watch that video, at the conclusion, you will know who Ross Collins was. And he meant a lot to me. He still means a lot to me. You know, I drove in from Houston and spent 3 or 4 hours with him and Margaret the final week of his life. And I remember that like it was yesterday. I remember some of the things that he told me, and kind of getting emotional thinking about him now. And anyway, thanks again for letting me participate in this. I hope you guys all have a great weekend, and the weather's good for you. And I hope to be there for the 40th celebration. Thank you.